Have you ever wondered why the most moral people are rarely the most successful? Why teachers, nurses, and social workers, some of the most selfless individuals in our society, aren't living in mansions while those willing to bend rules seem to rise effortlessly to the top? It's a troubling question, isn't it? We've all been raised on the same comforting fairy tale. Be good, stay honest, play by the rules, and success will naturally follow. Parents, teachers, religious leaders, they all repeat this mantra. Yet when we look at the real world, at who actually holds power and wealth, we see a very different story unfolding. Has this ever happened to you? You work harder than everyone else, follow every rule to the letter, and watch in disbelief as someone less deserving but more cunning gets the promotion, the deal, or the spotlight. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us, and from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. What you're about to discover might surprise you and even disturb you. That moral code you've been faithfully following might actually be an invisible cage, a sophisticated system designed not to elevate you, but to keep you obedient and controllable. While you've been playing by the rulebook, others have been rewriting it. Think about this simple marketplace scenario. Two merchants set up shop side by side. The first is scrupulously honest. Fair prices, exact measurements, quality goods. The second smiles just as warmly, but secretly waters down his wine, mixes sand with sugar, and tips his scales in his favor. Conventional wisdom says the honest merchant will win in the long run because customers value integrity. But reality tells a different story. By the time customers realize they've been deceived, the dishonest merchant has already reinvested his extra profits, expanded his business, paid off local officials for protection, and dominated the marketplace. His temporary deception has created a permanent advantage, an uncomfortable truth that challenges everything we've been taught about fairness and success. Stay with me until the end of this video, because we're going to explore why morality, as most people understand and practice it, might be the very thing keeping you from achieving the wealth and power you desire. We'll examine why the game isn't designed to reward fairness, but rather cunning, strength, and strategic control. The most troubling realization isn't that bad people sometimes win. It's that the entire concept of conventional morality might be a tool created by the powerful to ensure that you remain predictable, controllable, and ultimately no threat to their position. Like a shepherd using a staff to guide sheep into a pen, the elites use morality to keep the masses moving exactly where they want them. If you want more unfiltered truths about how power and success really work, hit the subscribe button now. Join those who've chosen to see beyond the illusions. And that's the uncomfortable truth that few are willing to acknowledge. The system isn't broken, it's designed this way. The powerful don't just play a different game, they've created the rulebook specifically to ensure you stay in your lane while they operate with complete freedom behind the scenes. This mindset shift can be jarring at first. After all, we've built our entire lives around these moral principles. But consider this hidden reality. Morality serves as the perfect tool for control. The wealthy and influential preach about honesty, integrity, and fairness precisely because it keeps you predictable. As long as you're following their predetermined moral code, you pose no threat to their position of power. It's a brilliant strategy when you think about it. They don't need armed guards or physical barriers when they can simply implant a belief system that keeps you policing yourself. It's like installing an invisible fence in your mind that you dare not cross, while they freely roam beyond these boundaries, making decisions that would shock you if you knew their true nature. This revelation isn't new. In fact, one of history's most controversial thinkers exposed this dynamic centuries ago. Niccolò Machiavelli became one of the most reviled names in political philosophy precisely because he dared to strip away the facade and speak the uncomfortable truth about power. In his masterwork, The Prince, Machiavelli didn't advise rulers to focus on being virtuous or good. He told them to be effective. If cruelty achieves your aims faster than kindness, use cruelty. If deception secures your position better than honesty, then lie without hesitation. And most importantly, if appearing moral gives you influence over others, then by all means wear morality like a costume while your actions behind closed doors follow a completely different set of principles. The profound journey of transformation begins when you recognize that those at the top aren't playing by the same rules they've established for everyone else. They understand that the appearance of virtue matters far more than actual virtue. The mask is what influences the masses, while reality operates on far more ruthless calculations of advantage, opportunity, and control. Think about the leaders you admire, or the wealthy figures who seem to have it all. Do you truly believe they achieved their status by following every rule and treating everyone fairly? Or is it more likely they made calculated decisions that sometimes crossed moral boundaries while maintaining an image that kept others believing in their integrity? Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic and show you exactly how this principle manifests in everyday business and personal interactions, where the stakes might seem smaller, but the same dynamics are constantly at play. Write in the comments, "I see the game now," if you've ever witnessed someone using their perceived morality to gain an advantage while privately breaking the very rules they preach. Let me show you how this plays out in the real world of business. Imagine you're starting a company alongside 10 other entrepreneurs. All of you believe you're on equal footing, competing fairly for the same market share. Everyone charges similar prices and offers comparable service with a smile. That's the surface-level game. But beneath this veneer, the Machiavellian player executes a different strategy altogether. While maintaining the appearance of fair competition, they secretly negotiate exclusive deals with key suppliers, effectively cutting off their competitors from accessing the best materials. They craft marketing campaigns that cleverly bend the truth just enough to create an irresistible narrative without crossing into obvious deception. They pay influencers to enthusiastically endorse their products, even when these influencers have never genuinely used them. The revelation here isn't just that this approach works, it's that it works consistently and devastatingly well. By the time the honest competitors realize what's happening, the market has already shifted permanently in favor of the strategic player who understood the hidden rules of the game. This mindset isn't new, it's as old as civilization itself. Look at how the great empires of history established their dominance. Rome didn't build the most expansive empire in the ancient world by playing fair with neighboring territories. They conquered, they enslaved, they manipulated alliances, and they crushed resistance with brutal efficiency. Yet simultaneously, they preached about law, order, and the benefits of Roman civilization. The contrast between their public narrative and their behind-the-scenes operations reveals the fundamental blueprint that powerful entities still follow today. We see the same pattern with modern billionaires and corporate titans. They deliver inspiring TED Talks about making the world a better place. They fund foundations with their names emblazoned on buildings. They speak passionately about ethical business and sustainability. Yet behind closed doors, these same figures lobby aggressively against regulations that might limit their profits, systematically crush smaller competitors, and exploit every legal loophole to maintain their advantage. The journey toward understanding this dynamic requires accepting an uncomfortable truth. In the arena of power and wealth, there are predators and there is prey. The transformation happens when you recognize which role you've been playing and make the conscious decision to evolve your approach. This isn't about becoming evil or abandoning all ethical considerations. It's about removing the blindfold that has kept you playing a game whose rules were designed specifically to ensure you never win. It's about recognizing that while you've been operating with one set of principles, those at the top have been implementing an entirely different playbook. The most profound insight isn't just that this duality exists, but that those who master it never reveal their methods. They maintain the mask of virtue precisely because it provides the perfect cover for their actual operations. Drop "predator recognized" in the comments if you've started noticing this pattern in your own industry or workplace. And here's what separates those who truly understand this game from those who merely glimpse it. They never announce their awakening. The most powerful players in any arena have mastered what I call the silent strategy. They don't proudly declare their ruthlessness or boast about their calculated moves. They don't write manifestos explaining their true philosophy. They understand that the power of the mask depends entirely on others believing it's your real face. This revelation explains why the continued success of certain individuals remains so mysterious to those still trapped in conventional thinking. The masses look at a billionaire's rise and think they must have been smarter, worked harder, or gotten luckier than everyone else. They cannot fathom the behind-the-scenes maneuvers, the calculated decisions, and the strategic violations of the very rules these successful figures publicly champion. Subscribe now to continue your journey into the hidden rules of wealth and influence that nobody else is willing to reveal. The journey of personal transformation begins when you internalize this fundamental truth. Results speak, strategy stays silent. The most effective players let their achievements do the talking, while their methods remain carefully guarded secrets. They understand that broadcasting their tactical approach would only alert others to their true nature and diminish their ability to operate freely. Now, let's explore the second core principle that governs this hidden reality: the deliberate separation between appearance and action. The most successful operators wear a mask of virtue publicly while making calculated decisions privately. This isn't mere hypocrisy, it's strategic brilliance. When you consistently project trustworthiness, kindness, and fairness, people naturally lower their defenses around you. They share information they'd otherwise keep hidden. They grant you access to opportunities they'd deny to someone they perceived as a threat. They willingly bring you into their inner circles, never suspecting that your true priorities might conflict with the values you espouse. Think about how politicians masterfully employ this technique. On stage, they speak passionately about serving the public, protecting families, and upholding justice. The crowds cheer, believing every word. Yet behind closed doors, these same individuals negotiate deals that primarily benefit their donors, secure advantages for their own families, and interpret justice in ways that selectively serve their interests. The mindset shift required here is profound. Most people believe their words and actions should align, that integrity means consistency between what you say and what you do. But the Machiavellian understands that this moral consistency is often a liability in a world where perception shapes reality more powerfully than truth itself. The hidden truth is that if you openly display your ambition, your hunger for success, or your strategic thinking, people will instinctively resist you. They'll see you as a threat or label you as selfish. But if you wrap those same ambitions in the language of virtue and service, those same people will actively help you achieve your goals. Type "mask understood" in the comments if you've ever witnessed someone successfully using this strategy of appearing virtuous while acting in pure self-interest. But understanding this dynamic is just the beginning of your transformation. There's an even more powerful revelation. Morality isn't just a trap to avoid, it's a weapon you can wield against others. This shift in perspective represents one of the most profound strategic advantages available to those who truly grasp the hidden rules of power. Consider this carefully. The same moral code that might restrict your own actions can be deliberately used to restrict the actions of others while you remain free to maneuver. This isn't merely about escaping the chains of conventional morality. It's about learning to place those chains on your competitors and rivals. How does this work in practice? When you appeal to someone's sense of fairness, duty, or ethical obligation, you're not merely having a philosophical discussion, you're activating internal constraints that limit their options. Surely you wouldn't want to be so aggressive in negotiations, you might say, or I know you're too principled to use that tactic. These aren't innocent observations. They're strategic maneuvers designed to bind others to standards you yourself are willing to transcend when necessary. The Roman Empire mastered this approach. When conquering new territories, Rome didn't simply rely on military might. They preached about Roman justice, Roman law, and Roman civilization. They convinced subjugated peoples that adopting Rome's moral framework was the virtuous path. Meanwhile, Roman leadership operated with brutal pragmatism whenever necessary, applying their celebrated principles selectively when advantageous and ignoring them when inconvenient. The revelation here goes beyond simple hypocrisy. The truly strategic mind understands that morality functions as a form of social control, and those who recognize this can position themselves as the controllers rather than the controlled. This perspective shift represents a fundamental awakening to how influence actually operates in every human interaction. Now let's explore another dimension of this mindset, the strategic deployment of patience. Most people are slaves to immediacy. They want results now, recognition immediately, success instantly. This hunger for quick rewards makes them startlingly predictable and easy to manipulate. The master strategist understands that patience itself is a weapon of immense power. While others rush frantically, exposing their weaknesses and depleting their energy, the patient player observes, builds position quietly, and waits for precisely the right moment to act. Think of how a chess grandmaster approaches the game. The amateur lunges at every apparent opportunity, eager to capture pieces and make progress. The master makes subtle, seemingly insignificant moves, each one invisibly strengthening their position while drawing the opponent into increasingly vulnerable configurations. Then, when the moment is perfect, they strike once and end the game. This strategic patience isn't passive. It's intensely active beneath the surface. It represents a profound understanding that timing often matters more than effort, that position frequently trumps action. Comment strategic patience below if you've ever witnessed someone win by simply waiting for others to make mistakes, rather than forcing their own advantage prematurely. Machiavelli understood something that most people spend their entire lives never grasping. A truth so fundamental, it separates the wealthy from the working class, the powerful from the powerless. That truth, labor alone, no matter how honest or diligent, will never create significant wealth. The construction worker breaking his back in the sun, the dedicated nurse working double shifts, the farmer toiling from dawn to dusk. These are moral, hard-working people who often remain financially trapped despite their efforts. The revelation that changes everything is this: labor without leverage is simply sophisticated slavery. The truly powerful don't work harder than everyone else. They work smarter by systematically building leverage into everything they do. They use other people's time, other people's money, other people's skills, and sometimes even other people's morality to multiply their own impact far beyond what any individual could achieve through direct effort alone. This mindset shift requires a complete reversal of conventional thinking. The moral framework taught to most of us glorifies hard work and personal effort while quietly discouraging the pursuit of leverage. But look closely at how wealth actually functions. The banker doesn't diligently save pennies. He controls billions that don't even belong to him, moving vast sums with minimal effort. The CEO doesn't personally design products. She builds systems where hundreds or thousands of employees execute her vision. The investor doesn't work harder. His money works for him, even while he sleeps. The hidden truth behind every fortune is that someone discovered how to escape the trap of trading time for money and entered the realm of multiplication through leverage. Two fruit vendors illustrate this perfectly. One carries his own baskets, works long hours, and handles every transaction personally. The other rents multiple stalls, hires young assistants to sell for him, and negotiates bulk discounts with suppliers. Within months, the first vendor is exhausted and barely surviving, while the second has tripled his income and rarely touches the merchandise himself. But what if you lack the resources to build leverage? This brings us to another transformative principle: strategic substitution. Not everyone begins with money, authority, or connections. The Machiavellian mindset doesn't accept this as a permanent limitation, but instead asks, what can I substitute for what I lack, don't have capital? Substitute it with persuasion, borrowing others' resources until you build your own. Lack formal authority? Attach yourself to someone who has it, becoming indispensable until their power becomes your pathway. Missing connections? Create value for those who already have them. The brilliance of substitution is that it liberates you from waiting until you've honestly earned something through conventional channels. Instead, you creatively engineer alternative paths to the same destination. History's most influential figures rarely began with every advantage. They mastered the art of substituting what they lacked with what they could access or create. Type leverage understood in the session. Comments if you've recognized areas in your life where you're still trading time for money when you could be building systems of multiplication instead. Now let's unlock one of the most powerful revelations in the Machiavellian playbook. A principle so transformative, it can completely redefine how you approach influence. Here's the hidden truth. Reality itself matters far less than what people believe is reality. The elite understand that perception control is often more powerful, more efficient, and less costly than attempting to change actual conditions. This insight represents a complete inversion of conventional thinking. Most people exhaust themselves trying to alter objective circumstances, working harder, building better products, improving actual performance. But the truly powerful focus instead on shaping how those circumstances are perceived, understanding that human minds respond primarily to impressions rather than facts. Consider luxury brands. Are their products functionally superior to alternatives that cost a fraction of the price? In most cases, absolutely not. Many come from the same factories as budget items. Yet through masterful perception management, they create an aura of exclusivity and quality that transforms identical materials into objects people willingly pay 10 times more to possess. That's not changing reality. That's controlling how reality is perceived. This principle applies everywhere. Political leaders don't need to solve complex problems. They need to appear to be solving them. A confident speech, a ceremonial bill signing, a carefully staged photo opportunity can generate more public support than actual policy improvements that might take years to implement and prove effective. The perception of action often delivers more immediate rewards than action itself. The breakthrough in your own journey comes when you realize that perception manipulation requires far less resource expenditure than reality manipulation. You don't need to actually own everything. You need people to believe you control everything. You don't need to be the most capable. You need others to perceive you as indispensable. This leads directly to another dimension of strategic thinking, the distinction between logic and desire. Conventional wisdom suggests that people make decisions based on facts, reason, and rational analysis. The Machiavellian knows this is fundamentally untrue. Human beings are primarily emotional creatures who use logic only to justify what their desires have already decided. The transformation in your approach happens when you stop trying to persuade others through factual arguments and instead learn to speak directly to their underlying desires for status, security, belonging, recognition, or power. Advertisers don't sell cars by discussing engineering specifications. They sell freedom, status, and identity. Politicians don't win elections with policy papers. They win by evoking hope, fear, or nostalgia. Even the most seemingly worthless offering can become irresistible when connected to profound emotional needs. A parcel of swampland becomes an exclusive future luxury development that promises status. An ordinary product becomes revolutionary by promising transformation. The land didn't change, the product didn't improve, but the connection to desire made them valuable. Type "perception is reality" in the comments if you've noticed how a situation in your life changed dramatically, not when the facts changed, but when how people perceived those facts shifted. Let me reveal another ancient strategy that the powerful have used for millennia. One that operates silently in the background of every organization, community, and relationship. When potential threats unite, they become formidable, but when divided, they crumble. This principle of divide and conquer represents one of the most efficient paths to maintaining control with minimal effort. Throughout history, empires didn't maintain control over vast populations through constant military presence. Instead, they mastered the art of keeping potential opposition fragmented and focused on internal conflicts. Rome allowed tribal rivalries to flourish in conquered territories, positioning themselves as mediators rather than oppressors. Colonial powers deliberately heightened existing tensions between indigenous groups, ensuring that resistance remained scattered and ineffective. The revelation here isn't just historical, it's immediately applicable to your daily reality. In your workplace, the strategic player doesn't confront rivals directly. Instead, they quietly plant seeds of doubt between potential allies. A carefully placed comment here, a strategic revelation there, and soon colleagues who might have united against you are too busy suspecting each other's motives to form a meaningful coalition. The transformation in your mindset occurs when you stop viewing harmony as always beneficial to your interests. Sometimes carefully managed discord serves your position far more effectively. The journey to power often requires learning when to unite allies and when to subtly ensure your opponents remain divided. Consider this revealing example. In a growing company, two department heads were natural allies who could have combined their influence to challenge leadership. A third, less obvious player quietly fed each small pieces of misinformation about the other. "I thought you should know what they said. In that meeting you missed." Soon, the potential alliance dissolved into mutual suspicion, while the third player advanced unnoticed into a position above them both. This brings us to perhaps the most liberating principle in the entire Machiavellian framework, the complete rejection of apologizing for success. Conventional morality subtly conditions us to feel guilt when we rise above others. We're taught to downplay achievements, to make ourselves smaller so others feel comfortable, to attribute success to luck rather than strategy. The profound mindset shift happens when you recognize this as yet another control mechanism. The truly powerful never apologize for their victories. They don't shrink to make others comfortable. They don't diminish their achievements with false modesty. Look at history's most consequential figures, conquerors, industry titans, visionary leaders. Did they apologize for their ambition? Did they minimize their accomplishments to avoid making others jealous? Of course not. They understood a fundamental truth. Your results are your vindication. If others call you ruthless, calculating, or selfish, so be it. Their judgment changes nothing about your reality. Drop unapologetic in the comments if you've ever felt pressured to downplay your success or ambition just to make others comfortable with your rise. So now you've seen it, the complete framework that separates those who merely work from those who truly win. The Machiavellian path isn't for everyone. Most will continue believing the comfortable fairy tale that goodness alone guarantees success. They'll remain trapped in the very system designed to keep them obedient, predictable, and ultimately no threat to those who understand the real rules of the game. But you've stayed with me through this journey. That tells me something important about you. You're not interested in comfortable lies. You want effective truths. You're ready to see beyond the moral cage that's been carefully constructed around your ambitions. If these insights have illuminated something you've always suspected but couldn't quite articulate, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. We don't waste time with feel-good platitudes here. We focus exclusively on the actual mechanisms of power, wealth, and influence that others won't discuss openly. This is just the beginning of unraveling how the world truly operates behind the scenes. The transformation in your thinking has only just begun. If what you've heard resonates with your own observations about success and power, leave chains broken in the comments. It's a silent acknowledgement between those of us who've chosen to see the game for what it really is. And if you found value in these revelations, a simple like helps others discover these same truths. Not because I'm asking, but because spreading this knowledge weakens the very control systems we've been discussing. I've prepared another video that takes these principles even deeper, exploring how to specifically apply these concepts in negotiations, business deals, and personal advancement. Click right here, and let's continue pulling back the curtain on how the truly successful operate when no one's watching.